evening and welcome to the Monmouth City Council meeting for Tuesday, May the 1st. And the consent calendar consists of two items, the minutes from the council meeting of April 17th and the minutes from the council work session of the same evening. Do I have a motion on that?
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, those minutes are approved. I don't have a whole lot to report, if anything to report this time, so I'm going to jump right into our council reports. And since Darren's not here, we'll skip the Senior Advisory Board report until our next council meeting. Councilor Johnson?
Yeah, I was not here for the Planning Commission. Basically, they were reviewing part of our planning and doing a workshop is what it is, most of it, so.
Okay. Councilor Sharma?
Tree board. Is this on?
Yeah.
Okay. The Monmouth Tree Board had a really great Arbor Day celebration last Saturday. We worked together with the Monmouth Independence Rotary Club and some representatives from Western Oregon University. And it began with the dedication of the Veterans Memorial Tree, which is a sequoia tree in Madrona Park. And there were dignitaries there. The mayor read a proclamation, and it was a very nice ceremony. We had a couple of veterans there, Dr. Sieber and Royal Johnson, who are both have served in the military, were there to show the colors for us, and that was very nice. The group all then went on to plant some trees together with the Rotary Club in Madrona Park. They went to Monmouth Elementary School to plant a couple of trees in memory of a mother and her child who were killed in a car crash. The little boy was a student at MES. Mary Loso of the Monmouth Garden Club very generously donated the money to pay for one of those trees. And then the whole group went to Main Street Park, where they planted an ornamental pear near the time capsule, which we all hope will still be there in like 1 million years when we have the next total solar eclipse. And that's it.
Okay.
That's all we did, I think. Did I get anything else? Okay.
Councilor Carey?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Minette Board met on April 26th. I was not there. So Scott, if there's anything of note that was there, I didn't get anything back from Maryland that was particularly noteworthy.
It's kind of regular business.
Regular business.
Mostly one of our quickest meetings we've had.
Well, that might be related to my absence.
I would make a connection, but maybe...
Yeah, I'll do it on my own. You know, I did review the financials that were shared at that meeting, and I was able to read those online. And you know, March revenue and March operating income was slightly down from February, the month previous. Largely attributed, and when I say slightly, only a couple $1,000s, and probably they're speculating due to the announced price increase, you know, the on video that went up, and so there may have been some people bailing early on that. Not a big concern, certainly at all. Finances continue to be stable. It seems like I tell you that all the time, but for me it's reassuring, and hopefully you all as well. We are underperforming a bit on versus budget, and again, that's attributed, and I've reported this in the past, that Western Oregon, the residence halls are no longer requiring their people, you know, to be involved with that, and so that was you know, modest but significant hit to revenue. One of the things that I neglected to report previously was in mid-March they had, and this is a housekeeping thing more than anything else, but they did just do a cut over to a new financial system which will allow them to be much more efficient, better interface with payroll, better interface with billing, inventory, capital assets, a lot of things. They were sort of operating on an older system that wasn't quite as efficient and effective. So that cutover happened mid-March. We began our budget process, the MyNet budget process, on May 17, and that will continue. We'll resolve that in June, sort of a similar timeline to what we have. Next board meeting for the MyNet Board of Directors is May 31st. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Are there any community announcements?
I have a couple. I am not prone to hyperbole, but I would like to let you know that the best breakfast in town is coming up this Saturday at Monmouth Senior Center. Pancakes and biscuits and gravy and all that, syrup and stuff that causes heart attacks. But it is a really, really good breakfast. So once a month isn't going to kill you. And then also, I have entry forms. Believe it or not, 4th of July is just a little bit more than 2 months away. I have entry forms for the Monmouth Independence Rotary Club Grand 4th of July Parade. You can get in on early bird registration for $20 now. And there are few things more fun than decorating a float and taking it in a big parade like that. So I have entry forms if you'd like to be in the parade.
Any other? So there's one day coming up in May that's going to be really busy, so get up early and plan on staying active. May the 19th, Central School District Transportation Department is doing Fill the Bus at Weimar. All day. Discover My Town is going on from 3 in the afternoon till 7 in the evening. And then Monmouth and Independence are combining together for the Hazardous Waste Disposal Day at Riverview Park. So you can start early and go all day on that day. Any other?
What are we filling the bus with?
Food, clothes, hygiene products, anything, everything. The donations will end up with the Electron Food Bank. And possibly the Christmas, depending on what we get, they'll all get donated back to the community. That's it for me. So Scott?
Yep, thank you. Janet? We'll go through the order here. We'll do the financial report, project report, and I got a couple other items.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councilors. There's not a lot to report financially that's different than last quarter. The good news is we are generally on track financially with where we thought we were last quarter. Again, the highlights are things like marijuana taxes coming in lower than we projected. We will get a little more this year than we probably will next year, just because there was some carryover from the first year of collections. So right now we're projecting about a $36,000 shortfall in the marijuana taxes. As far as expenditures go in the general fund, I only foresee 2 departments needing to go to contingencies. And when I say go to contingencies, it's essentially using savings that we have. We could do a supplemental budget with our additional revenues, or we can do a contingency transfer. But effectively, overall, we should still be ahead at the end of the year, fund balance wise and working capital wise. Otherwise, there will be a few other transfers as we do every year. At the end of the year, we'll have some funds that are going over appropriations, but that's because they have extra revenues. Both the gas fund and the building fund are a good example of that. They've been working hard in the building department, and a lot of activity there, which has resulted in a higher SDC revenue as well. Gas fund, it's primarily because prices are higher and we're passing those costs on. So again, we'll either do a supplemental budget or a contingency transfer to cover off those costs. The only other thing I might highlight is that the LGIP, where we primarily invest our, I'll call it idle cash, is higher than it's been in quite a while at 2.1%. And so interest rates are bumping up a little, which is interesting. I welcome any questions you have.
Ron?
Well, I think about, probably before we get to budget, but, you know, we have the bond for PERS,
Yes,
and that's what, 100 and something, it comes out of the, you know, it's out of the general fund.
yes.
Okay,
It comes out of its own fund, but
right,
it comes, but it
but
gets.
that's a self-generated fund, or is that fund that when we got that bond, it's broke down for every year till 28 when it's paid off?
Correct, and so we gather from, we attribute the costs of the PERS bond to all of the funds that have personnel services in them. And we add that cost onto the compensation of each employee, and that's how we pay for the bond.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Right, and what I'd like to, maybe in the budget time,
Yes.
when we get early, is that we pay the 100, well, I'll just say 138, I don't know what it is, 128, whatever it is.
Per year, yeah.
Yeah, per year on the bond. How much of that bond money do we go to PERS to? So like if it's 150,000 come out of that bond money, you know, and plus 138 is what I'm trying to look at for PERS. That thing was built on a 20-year program, wasn't it? On a 20-year bond?
It might have been longer than 20 years, I'm pretty sure it's
I know
longer
it's
than
up to
20
28,
years.
so what I'm trying to say is,
Yeah,
you know, we're always juggling PERS.
Mhm.
And I just want to know how much that money comes out of that bond every year to go to PERS, plus the money that we pay for the bond.
gotcha, yes, and in fact, I've got some nice graphs that you'll see in your budget document, I hope.
Okay, but I'm just saying,
Tomorrow,
so
or
we
the
will
next
be
day
asking
of the
that
list.
when it comes, is what I'm trying to get.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Byron?
On the marijuana tax revenue, what was the cause of the shortfall? Was it a misunderstanding of the calculation, or was it the sales aren't as high, or how did that?
I believe the state just grossly overestimated what they thought would come out of the taxes, because all of the jurisdictions did what we did. We took the state estimates and relied on those, and basically everyone seems to be getting a shortfall. I don't think it has anything to do with our particular local situation. So I think the taxes are being applied and remitted, and we are getting our fair share, but they haven't actually, the state hasn't done an analysis to say why they were so far off, which would be interesting to ask for.
So did the money that we did get
Yes.
include the local tax that we?
Correct, the 3% local tax, yeah, it's both the state apportionment that's done on a formula basis, and it's also the local tax portion.
Thanks.
John?
You note that in the utility funds, we've got an overrun in those, and it's largely attributed to the relocation of the water line stuff, which, you know, and people in my neighborhood are living with right now, which is okay. Is any of that, could any of that be reimbursable?
For the water fund?
Well, I mean, that's a relocation of utilities, and I didn't know.
Correct, I believe that is true, yes.
Yeah, they're still working out final formulas and everything, but yes, we will actually have reimbursables for the water relocation and the electric.
Okay.
A percentage, right?
Yeah.
And so there'll be some money then coming back to backfill this
Right.
item? Yeah, okay. I was anticipating that, but I wasn't sure. And then the next question is on the urban renewal district and the discussion there, you know, about, and I read this fairly quickly and I didn't detail it, but there's some legal expenses incurred to settle a dispute regarding the Warren Street Sidewalk project and issues related to satisfactory completion. That's, what is the story on
Yeah,
that?
just summary is that we got ready to do the final check. They contested it. They came up with a hugely higher number that they thought they were warranted. We didn't agree with it, but we could not work with them directly, so now we had to come in and actually bring in a specialty attorney. So mostly what you're seeing here is attorney's fees to get ourselves positioned for potentially how that goes and through a process. We took a last step that we hoped maybe would resolve it, but at this point they still seem to have dug their heels in, so we might still have further legal expenses.
So they billed us for more than what we
Yeah,
anticipated.
like substantially more, and
Substantial.
pretty, in our minds, pretty specious logic behind it, but they're sticking to it, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
And on the marijuana, you gotta get back on that for a minute. Now, the way I understood it was last year, we got a one-time payment, everybody did in the state.
Correct.
This year, 30% of that the state does not get marijuana money. Is that right or wrong?
Right, starting after, I want to say after January 1st or February 1st, that people should, or most of the jurisdictions that don't have marijuana dispensaries will not get any allocation.
That was after this year.
That was this calendar year versus the
So,
fiscal
I mean,
year.
sales must be way down. What I'm trying to say is maybe we can get an explanation of why we're so far off.
Have we gotten the first remittance for this year?
For this calendar year? Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, because you're right, because now there's less people that are
Less people
participating,
admitting.
so we should go
Yes,
up.
yeah.
That's the question I'm asking. Maybe you can
No,
answer
we've been
that.
getting about $8,000 a quarter for local and just roughly under that for the state portions. So, and that's, I'm not anticipating getting more than that next year if we have the same business level that we would.
Any other questions? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
So second up is if you go to your status report for projects, so if you get to that one that's on the horizontal format. And first one up is additional street funding. As you know, we've shifted that we actually think we're in not bad shape on transportation funding now with the package that was passed last year. So we're going to go toward doing the stormwater utility. And so we've got that basically roughed up as far as getting the RFP ready, but haven't been able to release that and get going. The power and light building, got our construction plans from our own permit department. We move pretty fast, but we're in a 30-day comment period for the other permitting with the state and the feds. At that point, they still have another 60 days they can go through. Yeah, we just keep getting hit with more and more things. We had an archaeological study we had to do. It's just like it's like they're pulling everything out of the hat they can think of to go on our project. Interesting one's occurring right now that we're still trying to get addressed is we've been put, as far as we're concerned, through the ringer on this project, and there's an apartment complex, you know, about the positions on the next property, and they just seem to be just sailing through. Like as in, no issue, we're not really worried about anything. I don't know how you can do that to two properties sitting next door to each other.
And they're floodplain too.
Yep, they're in the same place we are. So we're not sure. We just don't know on that one. Determined approach to City Hall upgrade. Council authorized the consultant study for that, so we'll need to get going on that and get that initiated. The established path forward on UGB expansion. Housing inventory complete. Council last meeting authorized some extra funds. We're getting our consultant lined up for that, so that'll help us speed that up a little bit. And then monitor the Highway 99 plan. It's utility work right now, and it's going to be a tough project. As I mentioned before, is that ODOT really kind of put everybody in a pretty tight box, and so it's just really ripe for utility conflicts. And it's a hard time to get your work done. It's easier when you're just kind of on your own and you can do your work. Just yesterday was putting in one line, and they hit the sewer line for the police station and actually blocked it. And so they've actually had backups coming up into the building. And it was just one of those cases where everybody's so tight that it's hard to not have something to go through. But everybody will get through at some point. It's gonna be a slower, kind of harder process, probably people making adjustments as you go through. So we'll see how that goes. So those are the core projects. Any questions there? And obviously we've got all the departments doing good work. Do you have any questions?
I have a question. These are all such nice round percentage numbers here. Is there any way that we could get a little more detail on what that, for instance, that 60% means or the 30% means? I mean, maybe one of these could be a 22.5%.
I don't think anything we're dealing with is that level of detail.
But are these just numbers just pulled out of a hat, or?
Not pulled out of a hat, but we're not going to get down to that level of detail.
So there's no way that we can get any more information about what the entire project would entail and where we are, maybe?
Yeah, we don't have it built that way. I mean, if you're talking, you know, Gantt charts and all these steps and things, yeah, we don't have this set up that way.
Okay, thank you.
And I've seen this before, and it says 99W pedestrian improvements and overlay. You know, and this is for the sidewalk and stuff. And we have an ODOT person here, but he's with another project. But I was in Astoria 2 weeks ago, and they have a blinking light, just like you push the button to go across the street, and goes on, and it is 1 block from the light on Highway 30. That's a state highway. And on the other end of town, on Highway 101, there is a crosswalk with a blinking light, 1 block from the light. So when they told us we have to be 1,200 feet from a light, they're full of BS. because that's two highways that they have the lights on them. So I think we need to look into this, even though we're just starting this program. Somebody's not telling us the truth. I mean, how can you have two of them in Astoria on major highways, one with no lights? Okay,
Very interesting.
I could have taken a picture, but I would have been more than happy, it was easy.
I wish you would have, I've seen many of those.
Did you have a question for Scott?
I'm just commenting on,
Okay.
on piling on that, with Royal. There's some nuance to them, but I concur, I think we ought to keep after that.
Joe, you got a question for Scott? No. Okay. All right.
Otherwise, other items, just a couple notes that the Complex Pacific Plaza, where you got the Domino's and Muchas Gracias, they're actually full now. So Curves actually moved back to Monmouth. They were in Monmouth, went to Independence, came back to Monmouth. And then right next door to Mid-Valley Eye Care, it's also in Dallas, they moved in there, so they're full up in that space, so that's nice. Library had a really successful wine and poetry event in the prior week. It was packed, and what I thought a neat one is people had fun, and it was also a good indicator is when it was done, people lingered. And they just talked to their neighbors, talked to people, and so that was a really nice function there. And then a follow-up on our nuisance abatement regarding bees. We got a hold of the State Beekeepers Association, had a person come out last week. They met with the owner that had the complaint, and then we also went to the beekeeper, had discussions, he asked a lot of questions, tried to see what was going on, and then he's gonna get a report to us shortly, and we'll see where we go with that. But nice thing that he said was that this is how the process is supposed to work, so they were pretty pleased, because the idea was instead of the city's just making a decision one way or another without information. They said, no, the point is so that we are there to give you advice and try to help out because it's very situational. He said you could have 10 hives in the yard, if you're taking care of it properly. And then depending on your perspective, he did note though that bees like to sting females more than males. So depending on what gender you are, that could be good or bad.
Was that because of perfume and,
I don't know. I didn't ask him the details, but he said it's pretty documented.
I think that's what he said.
Well, we're there too at that deal, and another thing I think you have to bring up, Scott, was he said there is a state law that they have to be aware of what's in the neighborhood. So if there is a problem, there's a nuisance with the state that we can go to, and they can have them remove all of it, not just one. The other thing I want to bring up on that deal was, we now have 6 transfers, what they call it, or split hives. He's put 6 more in to split the hives when they split. So instead of having 6, you're gonna have 12 down the road. That's the way he built it. But anyhow, there is a deal that if she feels she's being bothered, this person, then we as a city can go to the state under a nuisance law and they have to take care of it then. So we don't have to make a law, and it makes it so that we aren't limiting the numbers. So I mean, it isn't like we can't do anything. There is a law in the state that they have to be concerned in the city with neighbors, is what it amounts to. So that, and the other thing I'd like to add on that is I think that would be very nice if you either got a hold of them or sent a letter to them that, what really happened with your conversation with people next door and what can be done down the road.
Yep, that'll be all part of his report.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and I'll do it.
All right, thanks.
Scott, do you have an ETA on the consultant study for City Hall?
Not yet, I just have to get to it. I've been doing mostly budget and labor negotiations
Okay.
at the moment, so I just need to allocate some time there.
Okay, but do you have somebody in mind who you're gonna use as the consultant?
Oh, no, we've actually got some, I'm just gonna go out more for an open RFP. There's
Okay,
some
gotcha.
firms in Salem and a couple we worked up in Portland in the past, and then I'll just get it out to them and then we'll just post it.
Nice, okay, thanks.
That's it?
Yeah.
All right. So now it's time for citizen comments. At this time, it is reserved for citizens to comment on items that are not on the agenda. Maximum of 3 minutes per item, please. If you wish to comment on a specific agenda item, please sign up on the sheet provided in the back. Do we get a sheet?
Marshall signed up after he came in later. but
Oh,
that's the
okay.
only-
I have a 51
Okay.
for me.
So at this time, is anyone here for citizen comments that would like to comment on a non-agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move on to the business agenda. So ODOT Highway 51 presentation. Scott?
Good, of course. Okay. Well, Bill, we'll see what, how we go here, so. That's always nice when it does that randomly. You may have a PowerPoint presentation, we'll see. So, the item before you is Highway 51. Bill's gonna kind of walk through all the details, but the key thing is that we had a grant-funded project, costs have gone up quite a bit. There's a lot of drivers for that, so we need to actually rethink at this point. And previously, we were hoping that ODOT would be coming with some design options, alternatives. Most of those are kind of off the table at the moment, but I will let Bill walk you through everything. You might need to just, there it goes. We did have handouts.
Yeah.
Why don't we maybe just do that? He's done good for
I want to say thank you very much for having me come and inviting me here and make this presentation. I also want to say I've been with ODOT now for about 2 months. Before I came to work there, I worked for Weyerhaeuser for quite a few years, and I'm an engineer and as a consultant for most of the rest of it. Some 6 or 7 years in government, so county work. I want to say too that coming to Monmouth is kind of like, I'm from Oregon, it's kind of like seeing the Oregon that I remember. And sometimes you regret that you don't see it everywhere. So thank you very much, Mayor, Council, citizens. It's a real pleasure to come to a place that's as hospitable as you are, as high quality as you are. I had a little bit of chance to before I made this presentation, put it together, I talked to Russ and I talked to Scott, and to be real honest with you, we've got an issue here to talk about. They made it a little bit easier on me. I was sweating bullets for a little while on this thing, and it's a real pleasure to come to a real Oregon town. Thank you for that. The computer's not working. Now I think I'm going to try it. That didn't help.
It's just in the process.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, it might get there in a little bit, so.
Oh, look at that.
I just proceed and then it might.
Does everybody have a handout that would like to have one? The purpose of this is to, now I'm going to find a place to stand where I don't have my back to anybody. The purpose of this presentation is to talk about a project that I received as project leader at ODOT about a month ago, which is calling it Highway 51. Really what we're talking about is between Heffley to the east to the curve, where the curve is. That's really where this project is. There's one of the slides in this presentation, or in this handout at least, that includes better pictures of the project. And oh good, now it's looking like it's coming up so everybody can see a little bit. But so what I wanted to talk about here, as brief as I can, probably a lot of people here work, you don't want to sit here and listen to me talk all night, but I want to talk a little bit about what this project, the description of the project, its history, compare some estimated project costs, and review our funding situation and discuss options for future action. Those 5 items there. So, yeah, I guess we can move to the next slide. The basis of the project is, and you can't see it real well, I guess, but it comes from the transportation plan in the city of Monmouth. Our intent originally was to design a road with a cross-section that looks like this, with the exception of, what this is showing at least is, here's a curb and gutter here on one side, a curb and gutter right here on the other side, where in addition to a bike lane on both sides and a 12-foot travel lane for cars, we have an additional lane in the center, an additional lane in the center, which this one's got a tree in it. Our intent was to have a center turn lane, I should say. And that was our thinking originally on I say our, bear in mind I've been here 2 months. So that was the thinking originally on the project, is to create a section like that, essentially from Heffley to the east, roughly 3 blocks, to tie into where there already is a center lane right around the curve there. So that's to basically extend that center lane further towards town. And it also includes between the curves, the 2-inch grind and inlay, meaning they're gonna grind out 2 inches of the existing asphalt and put 2 inches of asphalt back in, so it tends to increase the life of the road some. That's kind of a, I don't know if you can switch to the next one, but that's kind of a good section view. And here's a plan view of what we're talking about. So this is Heffley, again, right here. You might be able to see it. Here's Atwater, and here's the curve. So we're talking about picking up that existing improvement right about here, coming around the curve, and going all the way into Heffley. So you can see also this blue is some improvement to the drain system. There's a sidewalk, there's an existing sidewalk on the north side. Everybody's familiar with the asphalt sidewalk, and one of the things that's happened between then and now is the ADA situation that's occurred where ODOT was involved in a lawsuit, and it's affected every project we do, including this one. And so the sidewalk on the north side is doesn't comply with the ADA standards anymore for accessibility. And what I really mean by that is the cross slopes are too much, and call it the longitudinal slope of the sidewalk is over the allowable percentage also, so that would have to be addressed. Anyway, we're talking a new sidewalk on the south side as well, tie in the curve. So you'd have an intersection here and an intersection here, which would have new pedestrian curbs, things of that nature, ramps, things like that. So that's an overview of what the project looks like, just to get this thing going. And the next slide kind of talks about the project history. So, way back in 2012, first drought, the city of Monmouth submitted the project application for the project we just looked at for an estimated, thought it would be $975,000 construction cost. ODOT in 2014 scoped the project. Scope means we went out and looked at it and tried to size it up, see what's involved. Gather enough information so it could put a pretty good estimated cost together, kind of just a verification of this number. So in 14, ODOT came up with $1.4 million for the estimated project cost. That includes the construction cost, plus the engineering, plus the other things that are, you know, the right-of-way that you have to acquire, various things of that nature. And then the next thing that happened was in 2015, ODOT added the project to the 2015, 2018, they call it the STIP, it's the State Transportation Improvement Program, which really means it's on a list and now it's gonna get funded and it's gonna get built. Everything's great. And then these seem to happen in about 2-year cycles. I can't explain why, but in 17, in December actually of 17, again before I got there, the project was rescoped and a new estimate was created for the work that we're talking about. That number came up to be $5.9 million. This is a point in this presentation where everybody's jaw would be just about hitting the deck. What happened? Well, I'm going to try to explain to the best of my ability what happened, because I did some research on this to try to find out. That number, I saw that number and I thought, what in the heck is wrong here? Well, there is something wrong. Anyway, so once we saw this is about the point I became involved. We rescoped it without a center turn lane just to see if we could still have a project. Well, that came out to be $4.2 million. And these little numbers in parentheses are how much money you'd have to pony up to make it work, and this is $4.5 million. That's the difference between here and here, and the same thing here, $2.8 million. But that's a project without a center turn lane. So that's a little bit about the project history and how the funding developed, the problems that associated with it. I'm going to throw a lot of numbers at you, but I owe you an explanation, and I'm going to do the best I can to give you an honest and straightforward one. What's the difference between that first estimate I mentioned from 2012 and the estimate we did here just this year, or the one late last year, December 2017, for $5.9 million? What happened? So I put these up together so you can kind of see. And I'll go through these pretty quick, but some are pretty significant. Number one, engineering, the cost of engineering, meaning designing it and getting it out to bid and managing the construction, those kinds of things, wasn't included in these. This is the ODOT. This is not the city's estimate. This is ODOT's attempt to estimate it in 2014. Somehow or another, and I can't say why, but it wasn't included. Just wasn't there. But when we put it together in 17 in December, we have a number of 432,000, and that's a simple percent of the total. That's how they do that. Right away in 2014, it's another zero. Wasn't there. The right of way that we think we're going to need to acquire for this project now is $1.97 million, almost $2 million. And what that means is to put those sidewalks in conformance with the ADA requirements, we're going to have to buy pretty much a full stitch of land in one direction on the north and another on the south. A lot of land acquisition. That number could certainly be refined, but that's the estimate as it stands. We have, the way it works is I'm in one building down there, and then there's a building full of engineers that specialize in these different things. We put a team together and they give us these numbers. So this is the number that the people in the know at ODOT on right-of-way gave us. So I'm not officially allowed to question it or argue with it, but I have looked at it. Utilities, another zero. Well, 212,000 here. I think a lot of that is the stormwater improvements, you know, on the north side, that asphalt sidewalk seems like it floods. There's some evidence that that's happening, so that's some improvement to the stormwater system. MOB is another example of a percent, but you can see 60,000 here is a percent of a much smaller number. So you get your number 3 times as big or whatever that is, and you get an estimate here that's about 3 times as big for mobilization. What that means is you bring a contractor in. Part of our contract is what does it cost to get the contractor to mobilize or move his equipment on site to get going. As a matter of fact, what a lot of that includes too with most contracts anymore is supervisors' wages, because you can't pay them standard labor rates or whatever kind of rates. So you've got to come up with it somewhere. It comes out of MOB. The roadway, this is representative of the cost of overlaying the road. Not overlaying, sorry. Milling and inlaying the road, that 2 inches I talked about. Why is it so much different? Price of asphalt's quite a bit different. I looked at some numbers, and what I didn't want to come here tonight was to give you a whole lot of detail and put everybody to sleep, but I just want to let you know that the estimates are different. Here it's almost double, which is almost believable in the price of asphalt, and that's the biggest factor in the last 6 years. Follows oil. Signals, we didn't have anything originally. Now we've got 82,000 in there for signal improvements. It goes on down the line. You can just see the numbers typically increase as you go down. Temporary protection is erosion and sedimentation control, and for some reason that number went pretty high. If anybody's interested, I can dig deeper into these, but that's not really the purpose here tonight. But it's just kind of lay it out for you and tell you that it really did happen. This is a little bit of a mystery. What do we mean AC bonus, public announcements, and anticipated costs? There's a program for contractors that you can make. It's not a whole lot of money. I mean, compared to the rest, it's a lot of money, no doubt. But you can make a little bit more money on asphalt if you're, or if you have a little more oil in it than what the state requires and meets certain faction requirements, that kind of thing. Public announcements and other things. It's just, those are, you know, in the big picture of things, pretty close. So that is a breakdown of what happened purely numerically. Other things that happened, just to kind of support that a little bit, are the environmental rules have changed. Once you come in now and you mill and fill, I call it, asphalt, you're triggering a stormwater requirement to treat stormwater, and that's built into these too. So you have to treat it for quality and quantity runoff. Didn't have that in 2012. Other things that happened was 12 was pretty much 4 years after the big economic situation we had in 2008 where there were still quite a few contractors eager to do work in 2012. So this, in a way, represents what we felt would be a little bit better bidding environment than now. People have gotten back on their feet, they're back in pretty good condition, so naturally their prices have gone a little bit higher. You've got basic escalation between the years. I could go on, I guess, make more stuff up, but here's the numbers as they exist. The next one talks about the project funding. We have and I apologize up front, I'm not an expert on these things, but I know there's a program, and I say there was a program called the Enhanced Capital Program, and that's where cities like Monmouth can apply to the state and improve the city. You know, you put sidewalks in, and just like this project's going to do, put in bike lanes, make improvements, and yet, you know, you pay a certain percent of the total, and ODOT covers the rest, and we have good projects. That program has been discontinued, and I had to check with a few people that are, you know, much higher pay grade than I am at ODOT. Or what do I say? They said to tell everyone here no additional funding is available from ODOT at this time for this program. See, I talked to Russ a little bit in the beginning, and I said, well, why don't we just go ahead and apply for the funds again, and now or whenever the next cycle is, and we'll get them, and we'll apply with the right number, and everything will be great. I thought, that's our out, but that's not possible, because then I found out on last Friday, only last Friday, that the program no longer exists. So, I don't want to do all the talking here, but basically, so what the next slide, or no, I guess it's right here, is what are our options for the future then? B is not a real good option, but B is cancel the project. If you cancel the project, the money goes back to ODOT, and to be totally honest, it goes to fund another project somewhere, somehow, again, above my pay grade, but it goes back to, what we care about here is money goes back to ODOT. Option A looks better to me. We talked about option A a little bit, and what that really means is let's not give the money back. Let's use the money to build something here. Even if it's a partial project, at least it's a step in the right direction. Here's an example of what that might look like. Maybe what we do is we go in on the north side there, and we improve that asphalt sidewalk so that now it's concrete. It's concrete, it's up to ADA standards, and it's positive for the city. It looks better. We do it in such a way that when the road is finally, if there ever comes a time where the road is finally upgraded, of course, that sidewalk's down low now compared to the road, so we build it up somehow and fill in the gap. Make it so that it's compatible with the road when ODOT will come in and overlay the road at some point, so that it's compatible with that. Rather than have to take it out again, that would make no sense. So let's make it so that it's in there permanently and it lasts for 20 years or more. To do this will require some additional scoping, because really now we're working backwards in classic engineering, where normally you've got the scope and you, normally you've got the project and you build an estimate for that project. You know what you want, and here's what it's going to cost. Well, in this case, what we'd be doing is, we know how much money we have, so it's a little backwards, so what kind of project can we build for that money? But it's doable. And it is $1.5 million, give and take, a lot of money. So I think that's maybe a future action that should be considered. I just wanted to put it out there. So in order to not bore you much longer with this and all my fun numbers, the last slide is just an invitation for anybody who wants to ask questions. And I didn't really do this, but it looks like I intentionally kind of made my name and my phone number a little bit harder to read. I didn't mean for that to happen. So I have this job, they pay me for it, and one of my duties is to make sure that if anyone has any questions, concerns, suggestions, anyone, that we at ODOT listen. Like I said, I worked in the mills for 12 years. Some of the best projects we had were because we listened to the people that were running the forklifts and sweeping the floors, because they looked at it every day and they thought about it every day. And sometimes they're even generous enough to tell us what they think we should do. I listened to them and it worked. So that's where I'm at.
Hey, Bill, why don't you shift back here and then
Okay, sure, thanks.
we'll do that.
Anyone have questions? Myron?
Hi, Bill. My question is what, so assuming we want to use this money for something, what are the limitations on what we can use it for? Does it have to be something pertaining to Highway 51, or what, how far can we massage that?
I'm glad you asked that, and that's a great question. The answer to that is yes, and I asked my supervisors that exact question, and they said as long as it's part of the original project, we can do that. What we can't do is, work on sidewalk 4 blocks away outside of the boundary of what we talked about on the project. That they won't allow us to do, but we can certainly make improvements within the limits of the project that's defined here.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So the definition of Heffley 2, the improved part in the S-curve, that's the only place we can spend that money on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well,
Well, I got several questions, so I'll start from, the $1.5 million, we pay 11% of that.
Yeah, it's close.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
mean,
an odd
if
number,
it's a
like
$1.5 million
10.27.
project, we're paying 11%.
It's like 10.27. Yeah, thank you.
That's what I'm saying, it's in that project. And then what you're saying is that the reason we're going clear past the curve, clear down to where the walkway is right now in your picture, is basically to put the drain in. When you're looking at your picture,
Yeah.
and because they already rebuilt the street clear up to the corner. I mean, it's already been rebuilt, sidewalk, some of it, not all of it. Sidewalks are clear around in front of the old, well, I guess it's a Polk County, whatever it is,
Yeah.
deal there. There's sidewalks there. Plus the sidewalks are on Atwater. The slopes aren't right on those. The 88 slopes aren't right on those, on the sidewalks there that are built there. They have to all be tore out and redone.
I think we'd have to look at that a
I
little
mean,
bit.
they're already there. I'm just asking. This is just simple questions.
These are great questions and appropriate ones.
Right, and so you're saying that we spend the money wisely on just maybe the sidewalk and bring it up to elevation. So do we fill the hole on the south side of the sidewalk so that there isn't a ditch in there to the highway? And is that part of the $1.5 million, or is that we just raise the elevation of the sidewalk?
We'd have to look at that and see what could be done with $1.5 million, so I can't really say right now what that would all involve. But I think if we're creative with it, I do believe we can come up with a project that makes sense for Monmouth, and you guys were in the service, it's going to be a salvage operation. But at least I think we can come out of it with something rather than nothing.
What's the 82,000 for signals? Is that the 2 signals for the school crossing?
Yes.
And that's 82,000 for, one's already on the other end and it's already set up, so you mean you have to change both of them? Because they're both solar, there's no power to them.
It's for a rapid flashing beacon like we want.
Well, that's getting close to light then. That's getting real close to light. I mean, I don't know how you could do that. I'm just trying to say,
And that one is not too close to light, and you've actually approved it.
well, then you better measure the other one. I'm saying we're 2 blocks. And the other thing is, then you do away with the school crossing there when you have the flashing light. Because this was the thing we had on 99, and we could not put the flashing light up by the school, because then, or by the police station, because then we'd do away with school crossing. So those kids would all have to press the button to go across there and not have a school crossing. Is that it? Trying to put this together, because we just went through this on 99, and now all of a sudden it's a whole new program.
And thanks, Russ. This is, we're really in the initial stages of putting this project together here too. But I want to answer your question, so I can't right now because I don't have knowledge of it, like to the degree you'd like to hear, but I can get back to you with an answer.
I'm looking what's there. When they were only put in, those signals for the school crossing were only redone about 5 years ago. you know, with the solar panel and everything else. So I'm trying to figure out why we're tearing everything out and redoing it. If we put a sidewalk in, we haven't gained a thing, because if we put a sidewalk in and have a 3-foot ditch, kids go off the sidewalk and crash in the ditch. I mean, I'm trying to put what you're saying for $1.5 million put together with what you've got here. It don't mean nothing makes any sense. I mean, I understand the project, and I really hated to see us go tear up that brand new road for 400 feet to put a drainage ditch in, when it probably should have been done to begin with. I'm looking at what seems to always be our problem is we're behind trying to catch up. We're never ahead. We never seem to get ahead here in the city. We have to do everything at the last minute. But I think these are some questions that need to be answered. And I think in the blinking, flashing light, hey, great deal, but then we do away with the school crossing, because we had that in 99. We talked about that one then. If we put a flashing light in there, a blinking light, then we did away with school crossing. They couldn't have a frog out there.
That's a possibility. They actually laid that out at one point, and then they showed some flexibility later, so I'm not sure that is true.
The flexibility to me is hard writing. Absolutely put down, this is what you do. We can talk here all night. I think John's got the same thing I do. The talking never seems to go. It seems to kind of disappear as we go, and things fade off the project, change. So I'm just throwing you things out that, like that flashing light on Madrona, when I can go to other state highways and they're right there. And we can't do it here. And now all of a sudden, we're gonna take and put one on in 51, and then we eliminate the school crossing, because that's what they said.
So
I'm asking the guy the question just for a minute, and when I finish, I'll be through, okay? Thank you for your interruption. So these are questions I'd like
You're out
to
of
be
order.
answered next week. Thank you.
Boyle, you're out of order.
I'm out, thank you.
Okay. So, without getting into the weeds on
I'd like to make a
signals and
motion that
everything,
Councilor Johnson be allowed to continue questioning.
I'll second that.
I want to get some clarification from our presenter as to, we don't need to go into the weeds. They don't even know what they're thinking about yet. They're trying to get some general ideas. Do we even want to look at, is moving forward with any type of project feasible
I
for
believe
us?
you had a motion and a second.
So I'm choosing to ignore those right now.
How can you do that? No motion was made, of order. It was a order.
Okay, so motion's been made to allow Royal to continue to ask questions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Okay.
Keep going.
What I'm trying to do is just, you ask us to ask questions, and that's what I'm trying to say is, the questions I'm trying to ask are, when you come back to us, you can give us the true answers to some of these. I'm not trying to dig the weeds out, but the weeds will be there the next time you come. Doesn't make any difference. It'll be the same questions we'll ask the next time. So that's what I'm just trying to get. So when you come back for the second presentation, you can say yes or no. That can't be possible. Thank you for your information.
Yes,
That's
sir.
all I'm asking.
We can absolutely do that. ODOT owes you that, and I will do so.
Thank you.
So any other questions?
Yeah. So you reckon we've got $1.5 million of ODOT money, or is that total dollars, including our match?
Yes, sir, that's total dollars including the match.
Okay.
And if I can back this thing up, I should, oh, here we go. It's, I said $1.5 million all along just because I was looking for an easy number, but it's really a total of 1.431 million.
Yeah.
I just want to make that.
Yeah, I guess that's a number that I was sort of working on.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of these things, you know, a lot of the 2017 costs are formula driven. And I assume that those same formulas are going to be applied to any sort of a project, like the engineering. Regardless of what it costs, there's a formula that'll do that. It might be more, it might be less. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. You know, I know, and part of this is venting, and I'll try to make it as quick, and it's not intended to be personal at all.
Oh,
But I'm trying to figure out, you know, I mean, did the scope change between 14 and 17 that would require $2 million of right-of-way acquisition. I don't,
No, it didn't, and I didn't want to try to, I mean, how to say this? I didn't want to come here and try to justify that original estimate. It was done by some folks that aren't at ODOT anymore, and I can't explain it myself. I think these are great questions. I would ask the same thing, well, how did that happen?
yeah.
I honestly don't have an answer. It's not the only project that happened on at ODOT. We're dealing with it by trying to improve our scoping and estimating process, but it's just it's real uncomfortable for me representing ODOT to deal with this because it's frankly pretty embarrassing. I don't have an answer for you.
You know, and it's not any of our intent to embarrass you. I mean, we hate nothing worse than shooting the messenger. We get that often.
Thanks.
But there are just some things that sort of, you know, I mean, I'm going to feel better when I understand why, you know, the actual paving, which, as you explained it, is a grind and replace. In other words, using the same materials, you're going to add, obviously, petroleum to it to make it stick, but that more than doubles. I mean, that's I'm confused by that, and it's really our asphalt, so it's not the cost of asphalt. I mean, it's our rock that we're going to dig up and treat and put back down, right? Isn't that how it works? I mean, I see operations seeming to do that.
There is a possibility that could be done. I think this was based on the idea of you, and I say I think because I can't say for sure,
Yeah.
but I believe it was remove 2 inches of material and put 2 inches of asphalt back in.
Different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Factory
I'm
gas.
sorry.
Yeah, no, that's,
Yeah.
but what I've got here is question 2, is to dig a little deeper into that and get you a better answer, because I've got the information, the breakdown on that. I didn't bring it with me, but I probably should have, but I didn't want to get too into the weeds, but I can get you a better answer on the breakdown between those 2 numbers, and I'll do that.
And then erosion control, you know, the temporary protection, which you identified as erosion control, you know, that's $500,000 right there. I mean, there's a lot of room for, and that's pretty flat.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't know what kind of erosion we're gonna get.
Yeah, I'll do the same on erosion control as well. In fact, what I can do on all of these numbers, provide a little bit better breakdown for council so that you can see more than just the 2 numbers, the detail of how those were generated in the beginning. That might help.
Yeah. Now, then the last one for me would be, yeah, because I agree a bit with Councilor Johnson relative to should we go with the sidewalk? We really need to bring that sidewalk up to a grade, you know, the pavement grade. So there's going to be something under there, because it makes no sense to do it any other way. I've worried about this project all along because of that elevation difference between, you know, the road surface and the front lawns or parking lots. So I think that's something that would have to be looked at, obviously, and the engineers, certified smart guys like you, will do that. You'll recognize it immediately as a problem.
We have other people that can handle it, but yes, sir.
But you know, that honestly would be, I think, a good improvement. I'd remind council that one of the reasons that we decided to go with this when the former mayor was, as a matter of fact, that might be a reason for some of the changes. The former mayor was on the transportation committee and angered some folks, I'm afraid, but who knows? But at any rate, you know, was to have that continuous sidewalk from, you know, Independence all the way through, you know, to the university on that north side of the road.
Yeah.
And that is still a laudable goal, and that still would be a real step in the right direction. I mean, in terms of our, you know, we've got a group that's bicycle and pedestrian, we'd like to be a friendly community that way. That would be a nice step in my opinion on that way. So I would say that while the whole project isn't going to go, it doesn't appear, that would be one of the components that we had targeted, when we first went with this whole deal. So anyway.
I have a question just to make sure I understand too, what you're seeing. That would be on the north side?
Well, that's where we have, I think, the easiest tie-in, I think.
We do at the vet there on the east end and that first intersection on the west end. Don't know the name of the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in the high school,
Halfway to the corner.
Yeah.
the high school is on that north side,
Yeah.
further down, and so anybody walking from the high school would be able to walk, if they walk anymore. But I mean, they'd be able to walk that without crossing, a major street.
And it's encouraging to hear you say that, because it looks like that would make an improvement, and it certainly looks like it's worth investigating to see if we can make that happen with the 1.431 million here. As a little farm boy kid, I never thought I'd be throwing $1 million bills around like I'm doing tonight.
You're not throwing them around, you're pulling them back.
Yeah.
And then final question, just real quick. Where was the who made the determination that we needed to upgrade those underground stormwater apparently there? I mean, when was that determined?
I'll venture sort of a guess at that. I think that we clearly didn't look at that in 2014 like we should have, but we definitely did in 2017 late. And I think what we saw on our scoping trip was places where the sidewalk had gone underwater. And I think the collective conclusion there was the stormwater system was inadequate. Now, again, that's a good example of something where we could come in and TV the line or get a little bit more knowledgeable about what's really in the ground for the stormwater system and see if there are ways to use what we have. And so there's a lot of unknowns related to that, but it was kind of what we felt maybe could be improved. But that's something we find out more and more about through the process of design.
You've been very good and very helpful.
Thank you, sir. I wanted to come in here with an honest approach. You deserve it. Give it to you as straight as I can, and then hopefully suggest something that we can do that would maybe help a little bit.
Thank you.
I just have one quick question. I think John alluded to Sam Rayburn, who once famously said, "$1 billion here, $1 billion there, pretty soon you're talking real money." Going back to Economics 101 in our first class in college, we learned that the price or the cost of goods and services is often based on what the market will bear. So are there other cities in Oregon who are seeing this kind of eye-popping increases in the cost of projects over the course of a few years? How are they responding?
The same way we are. They're getting projects questioned, cut down in scope, or canceled. Silverton's a good example of another one just almost identical to this. It is not only a statewide phenomenon, when I say it's probably a national phenomenon. I don't want to attribute all this to the price of oil, but the price of oil has gone up, and that directly reflects the price of asphalt.
Okay, thank you.
It was 73 when I had that one in college, so I don't
Yes.
remember. I had a terrible answer, sorry.
What it seems like here, though, is that this 2004, you left 30% of the cost out, which is that right of way. You left nearly a $2 million number out of that. So, the bulk of this isn't the increase in cost. The bulk of this seems to be just ineptitude.
Errors of omission.
Yeah, just leaving stuff out, so.
Blows, yeah.
Yeah,
Not just
so-
mistakes, but honest to God, blows.
Right, so,
And that's absolutely correct. Point well
It
taken.
is, it's gonna be $6 million.
Yeah.
Well,
And one question, we're running a drain line, basically, the storm drain. Does it tie in down there? Is that why it stops right there at the crosswalk? Is it tie into another storm drain there? I'm asking, you run right down the middle of the street with your storm drain and you stop right at the crosswalk, around the corner. Is that?
ODOT would be looking to tie what they're putting in into their existing line, correct?
It's already there? That line is,
I have to assume it is, yes.
okay, well, I'm just asking, you come on down. I couldn't understand why it couldn't be on the north side of the ditch and not in the middle of the street. I'm just looking at, you're looking at different things to save us money, we're looking at different things
Yeah.
to try to save money, and,
I like that.
and try to figure out how we can make this project work, and I'm just looking at, I wouldn't mind tearing up 200 feet of sidewalk to put a drain line instead of the middle of the street, is what I'm trying to say. The cost
Yeah.
factor is a lot different. Thank you.
I think the storm lane actually crosses the street. You know, you can look at the catch basins, and you do this for a few years and pretty well estimate where it's at. I think it crosses right this side of that curve. So, but the intent would be to do, like you do when your funds are limited, is use as much of the existing system as you can, and then go from there. I would make every effort to approach this with the idea, let's do what we can for the city of Monmouth. Let's be smart with our decision making. It's probably one of the reasons they have me there. I don't like wasting money, especially when it's somebody else's money.
Scott, what are our next steps on this? How do we,
Yeah, well, I think what we can do is, kind of two, is that one, Bill can get a little bit more detail on some of the cost issues and what those happen there. And then, basically, staff will sit down with the ODOT team and start looking at options. And if we come up with something that we think is viable, then we'll bring it back.
and Bill, how long do we have to decide?
We're not in a need to make a decision on deciding those things. We have a process at ODOT where we can push out the bid let date on the construction, but what I'd like to do is try to target, what's this one? I think it's 2020 for construction, the summer of 2020. To make that happen, we've got a good year yet where we can make a lot of these kinds of decisions. So if we can make a good decision, we have the time to do that.
I'm like you. It seems like 6 months we're jumping 20% in cost rate. So I just wondered how quick we could come back. I know it takes time, you have to sit down with a group, but the quicker we could get you back here with some of the ideas that we've presented, maybe we could get a cost factor in, because we know it's gonna go up by 2020. There's no doubt about that. We don't let the bid till 2020. I'm not a fool that it's not gonna go up at that time.
Yeah.
And we have to look at our dollars too.
Thanks for that. What I'll do is I'm going to go back to my desk tomorrow, and I'm going to set up another meeting tomorrow with this team and say, here's the direction we've been given from Monmouth. Let's put an estimate together for this sidewalk and see where we're at. And I would look, when I say that, I'm visualizing the sidewalk on the north just because of the tie into the existing one seems to be pretty convenient. On the south, a lot of the landscaping and things like that have kind of generally gone over past the right-of-way, and I think we're going to be into, and there's no sidewalk there now, so that one might involve a little more complication. The one on the north side seems to be sort of a natural place to go. That's just me, and I shouldn't be putting my opinion down here, but I think that's probably the right place to go. But tomorrow, I'm going to set up another meeting, and I'm going to get some of the key people in and say, okay, we'll chart a path forward as we talked about here tonight. And I would love to get the opportunity to come and talk with you again with a little better information about what we were going to originally talk about, which was alternatives.
I just wanted to make sure that part of the consideration has to do with bike lanes, since I'm big on bike ped. Please, when you bring something back, please make sure there's something for the cyclists.
One thing we'd like to do that won't cost much of anything at all is on the bike lanes right now, if you look at them and you drive from here towards the curve, it looks like they narrow down on the north side. And I like that too. I think it's a great opportunity to, it's good. And so what we'd like to do is at least restripe that, because the width between the curves doesn't change. Why they did that, I don't know. We can fix that.
I know we can't do protected, I know we can't do that, but just to widen it, and then also we'll make sure we keep them cleaner
Oh, yeah,
to protect the cyclists.
sure. Good.
Thank you for your effort. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
And
Yeah.
Thank you for your
No, thank
honesty.
you.
and hope you come back with some good ideas.
We'll do our
Maybe
best.
Better ones. How's that sound? Better.
Yeah. Oh, I think I can paint a prettier picture next time than what I had to paint tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So real quick, Marshall, did you have a comment that you want to add to this?
Y'all have 3 minutes or less for me, I'd like it.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. There you go. Appreciate it. Marshall Guthrie, City of Monmouth. So council, I know you all are going to be making decisions going forward, and I'm going to assume that decision is not going to be to kick the money back to ODOT, seeing as how unlikely it is we'll see it again. So what we're talking really about is a project of compromise. I would agree that the north side makes a lot of sense, although during the scoping process, I would appreciate folks looking at the sidewalk on the south side. North side of the sidewalk, as garbage as it might be, is functional. I've walked from Monmouth to Independence on it before. It works. On the south side, it mostly impacts me as a cyclist. I don't have to look at the bike lane from my car. I actually ride it, and I see people walking it. People who don't have anywhere to go other than the street or the ditch. And so I do think that that's a serious safety concern, especially given the lack of lighting and the speed at which cars tend to travel going down the roads, as our police chief can attest to with the number of fender benders that occur when people are trying to make left-hand turns. The big point that I do want to, one more small point when we go forward with this project, I would love to think that down the road there will be some ODOT money, and so I would like us to look at a project, and I'm sure Roy would appreciate this, that we don't have to tear up down the road, and it's something that could be more added on to it. But really the big piece that I want to come here to talk about is a little bit of the bike pedestrian, so thank you for broaching that topic, Roxanne. We have, I think for a long time, pushed off the improvements for multimodal use of our roads, saying that ODOT will fix it someday. We've got this ODOT project coming up, this ODOT project coming up, and that'll solve all of our problems. And I think that what we're finding is we can't wait for ODOT to make our roads more friendly for pedestrians and cyclists. I know that Stephen Howard is a huge fan of separated and protected lanes. I am too when the opportunity presents itself, but I'm getting a sense that is not what we have here and not what we're going to have in the future. So I would encourage the council, in consultation with the Bike Ped Committee, to maybe look at some low-cost improvements that can be made. Improvements such as signage saying that bicyclists are able to use the entire lane, although that is the law, especially when we run into bike lanes that are narrow or hazardous, as many of the lanes on 51 are. Many motorists see the main lane as the exclusive provenance of motored vehicles, and that is not the case per law. So some signage to that effect, and sharrows in the middle of the road, which I would love to see as part of the comprehensive plan extending through the downtown, as well as 99 north-south from the school, all the way down to, let's say, Weimar. Those would be things that could be done at a relatively low cost, undertaken by the city with little to no need to involve ODOT except in the planning phase, from my perspective, uneducated as it is. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And a small education campaign about sharrows as well for the community. It's important for people to know what those actually mean.
All right. We're finished with our presentation, and we're moving on to agenda item 2, the second reading and adoption of the ordinance adopting legislative amendment 1801.
Good evening, members of the council, mayor. So this is the second reading for the adoption of the Monmouth Local Wetland Inventory and the related amendments to the Monmouth Comprehensive Plan and Zoning Ordinance. We held a public hearing on April 3rd and then first reading on April 17th. So this would be the second reading to formally adopt the ordinance. And no changes have been made to the attachments to the ordinance.
So this is an ordinance adopting the Monmouth local wetland inventory, amending the Monmouth comprehensive plan, and amending the Monmouth zoning ordinance. I declare it's passed its second reading, and this will be ordinance number 1380. 1380.
Anybody for motion?
Sure.
I move to adopt ordinance 1380, an ordinance adopting the Monmouth local wetland inventory, amending the Monmouth comprehensive plan, and amending the Monmouth zoning ordinance.
Second.
The motion has been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just to note that if anybody is looking at this the first time, we've had considerable discussion on this and public input prior meetings. It's been duly considered.
All right, and Phyllis, roll call, please.
Oh my gosh, sorry, hold on a minute. Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
Counselor Belts,
Yes.
Counselor Sharmer,
Yes.
Counselor Schinkel,
Yes.
Counselor Carey.
Aye.
And that passes. Thank you for that. Are there any council comments?
Everyone can probably go either way. My comment is, remember, the 6th is the breakfast, it was brought up, and it is also, our walking tour can be accessed on that day too. There will be some, isn't there going to be some people to help us try to get that going on the apps, Susan, on that? And we hope to have the banner up within the next week. It's not up right now. And I just want to know, this is the big kickoff for the Historic Commission and for the Historic Month in the state of, not just the state of Oregon, but the whole United States. So,
And so is there any other historic event this month other than the?
yes, I think I brought those up before, but we're also going to have a, if you have time, and I wish we could have got a picture, it's perfectly explained in the library on the display. And it's really enough, I mean, I got it on my phone, but we couldn't get it on. I was talking to Susan. And it tells us some of the history, plus the buildings that are on this story, and also how you can get your house on this historic deal. And I think it's 23rd, isn't it? Yeah, let her help me. She's going to look that too.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder about that. Yeah, so on May 23rd, it's Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock at Monmouth's Bed and Breakfast. We're going to have a little open house where we've invited the community to come out and learn more about the National Historic Register and how properties can be listed on that. We'll have an expert there from the State Historic Preservation Office and be able to answer questions about that. And then also the owner of Monmouth has offered to do a tour of the home, so we'll be able to go through and see that beautiful home as well. So please come out, it'll be a good time, and we'll have refreshments as well.
All right. Do you have another comment, Scott?
Yeah, just point of order, we only have one short work session item, so if I propose maybe if you just take a 5-minute break and just stay in place, we don't need to really move after the table.
Okay,
I have a councilor comment, if I may.
sure.
I have one of these here and one in my mailbox, and it's the Monmouth Police Department 2017 annual report. And it was very nice going through here. There's a lot of really nice pictures of our police officers with people in the community, and coffee with a cop and craft with a cop and that sort of thing. And then I noticed in the front here, there's a list of our full-time sworn officers here. Are these the officers who are employed now?
Should be, unless, you know, they did a little bit ago, there might be a little.
A lag?
There could have been, between the time that report
Okay,
was done,
okay.
and maybe somebody got hired in there.
But the thing that I want to point out is that looking at these names, there's a preponderance of men and on the force. And the Lynn County Fire District is holding this summer what they're calling a fire academy for older girls and young women to learn about what it's like to be a firefighter. And my 19-year-old granddaughter said, gee, you know, I never even thought about becoming a firefighter until I saw that announcement. I think I'll go. So has anybody ever thought about having, say, here in Polk County, having a law enforcement academy for older girls and young women to learn what it's like to be a police officer, not just, things to hand out at a job fair, but actually getting out there and doing some police work and maybe saying, gosh, maybe I should become a cop.
Yeah, a couple things. So we reach out to the university directly. They have a justice program, so we're interacting with folks there real directly. And then an example of that is Independence, what they call explorers. And so it's actually not just like a fixed short-term program. You actually become an explorer, and you can explore it for a year or two. And you do activities with the officers, learn different things, do.
Is there anything designed or intended specifically for young women?
No, nothing like that. It's just an
Okay,
open program.
because this fire academy is just for older girls and young
That's
women.
interesting.
So I may wind up with a granddaughter who's a firefighter because of this. Cool. So, okay, thank you very much.
All right. So we're looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Move adjourned.
Been moved to adjourn. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so we'll take a 5-minute break and reconvene here for a work session.